begin.
It's October 13th, 2021. You know what that means. It is day 13 of the 31 Days of Fright horror movie project, year 10. I am the one and only MSJ, Max for short, and welcome to my YouTube channel. And today's movie, I have to give a quick shout out to my friend Spencer. He gave me the digital code for this movie when this movie first, at least a little ways after it came out, but before it really hit big on all the streaming. Because once, what's really sucks this year is that all the movies that I bought are all streaming now, and I'm like, oh, but it wasn't at the beginning of the month, and when I started in September when I started buying all these movies, and I was just like, oh, crap. But I bought kind of more like expensive editions. Like I got an Arrow release of a certain movie. I got some like the 4K version of Midsummer. So it's just like I kind of went a little up and beyond on some of the editions, so I don't feel too bad. But it's just still like, oh, I could have just waited, but it's okay. I'm gonna end up keeping most of these movies. So. But anyways, a shout out to my friend Spencer for giving me the digital code for today's movie, Hellfest. But before I go any further into going into the review, I need you to click subscribe, hit the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. I need you to go over to I'm the Ice Lord, the 13th Wolfman, Carly317, Double Shot J, Random Horror, Dave Maggot. He's doing nothing but what's it called? Trauma movies. I think Random Horror. He's doing 100 movies, I do believe, or he's doing the 13, or he's doing the Treehouse of Horror movies. I cannot remember. I'm so sorry if I'm getting that wrong. But go over all those guys and girls' channels and give them a like and bell and all that good stuff. Because once you hit that bell, I'm doing something new, doing the premieres. I'm kind of giving you a heads up of what the next few days is movies, and it'll give you a notification of when that movie goes live. So hitting that bell, leaving a like helps all of our channels and videos get out to a much broader audience. So, like I mentioned, today's movie is Hellfest. I really liked this movie until the last 20 minutes of this movie. I was really game for this movie up until the last 25 minutes, I should say, because I was like, oh, I love the look of this movie. I love how colorful. I love the production. I just love the look of it. I like actually I found the characters to be not that bad. I really loved everything. And so this movie is setting up to be like what's it called? A movie where they're going to just a run-of-the-mill slasher flick, but the kills are going to be set in an amusement park, and unlike Dark Ride, but this one is like in more of a strictly horror-themed amusement park, and it's some of the early kill in this movie. With the mallet and when you hit the thing and your test of strength basically where it goes up and tries to hit the bell, that gore scene was pretty cool, and it's like, oh, we're setting up for cool stuff like that. And there's another scene with a needle in the eye, and I'm like, oh, that was very rough to watch. I'm like, that was tough, and I'm like, oh man, even got me. And so it's like, oh, that's awesome. And then that's where this movie lost me. It was setting up these really cool, innovative kills, or at least not really innovative, but just interesting kills, and for the use of the environment, like the mallet and the test of strength. This dude found a random needle in this maze, and so it's just like, oh, this would be interesting to use for this kill, you know. And then I'm going into heavy spoilers on this one because I want to talk about this one. I was really disappointed in the ending of this movie. There's a little post-zinger, after the aftermath, there's a little PS. That's pretty cool. I really like that reveal. But between the sequence where Tony Todd shows up in the movie for the first time, because you hear him throughout the entire movie. His voiceover, like doing like the little through the speaker boxes and everything, and you hear him, and like the killer itself is really cool, and because he kind of blends in with everybody because he's like it looks like he's part of the 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 ride basically because this takes place in a part of the amusement park where they can touch you and pick you up and do things, and it's like you have to sign a waiver and all good stuff. So it's like that's where they're at in this particular part of the park, and so like things are going to get a little bit more hands on, and that's kind of I like they had how they work around that, and so and it's just like okay. There's this point where they're on the stage and they're about to decapitate this person, and that's where this movie like they should do it. They should really do it, and they don't do it, and I'm like okay. I'm like I understand, but then they kind of cut behind the scenes, and then they're like oh okay this guy is not is I knew this guy's a killer from all along, but he's like I'm gonna kill you, and he doesn't say that, but it's like you just know that's what his line of thinking is, and he does it, and then he tries to decapitate him with those old school guillotines, and of course it's like an amusement park ride, so it's not going to be like truly like it's going to be metal, but it's not going to be like sharp metal, and so it's like it digs into her neck, and then when he goes to crank it back up, he gets stuck, she gets free, and this is where the movie really loses me. It really loses me because two kills happen so fast to these two characters that probably deserve better death scenes in this because I'm not going to say who, but I'm just going to say it's just like these two characters deserved a really cool death scenes, not because they were bad or bad characters or anything. Like they were like very energetic, they had some charisma and stuff like that, but it was just like the two kills happen so fast. Like they just get like a knife to the heart and a knife to the stomach, and that was it. And like after you get this really cool mallet scene and the needle to the eye, and even the beginning of the movie where like I know it's like kind of like a standard knife death at the beginning of the movie, but at least you get to see kind of the aftermath where she's kind of being hung with the props. So and you kind of hear through dialogue they didn't find her for like almost 2 weeks because they thought. They are a week or so because they just thought that she was part of the props. So, and it was like, oh, that's really cool. So I give that one a pass. But this one these two were just like, and then it just turns into a chase scene. It really was, and it really bothered me that I was so into this movie, like. It was so colorful. It was so like it felt alive. It just like I love Tony Todd in the background constantly, just saying like safety things and and just being menacing, and like a carnival-esque kind of way. And then you get these two random kills that just don't mean nothing, and that really bothered me. So. I really like this movie overall. I really do. And the little aftermath, like the killer does. In all horror movies, the killer does kind of get away, but the reveal of who the killer is awesome. Like, spoiler, I'm not going to reveal what the true ending of this movie is, but it's like you really don't know the motives of the killer, and but it's like you see his life, and it's like that's awesome. I kind of want to see a sequel with this, or like where this goes with it. So. Just that last 20-25 minutes of the movie, but that last couple minutes of the movie actually kind of does save it overall. But it's just like that chunk of where from the guillotine to the chase scene, where it's like the kind of like almost the meat of the movie. Basically, it was just like oh man, I was so looking forward to like cool, interesting deaths, and only get like 3 at the most. But. There is actually some really cool sequences in this movie where like they're going through an actual dark ride, and it looks like they just kind of put a camera in front of them, and they don't know what's going to happen. Looks like this is their first time going through this dark ride, and they're just told like, "Hey, stay in character and just enjoy the ride," and and then it's like, okay, they go through it, and then you can tell like, and then second time around like start making out and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just like that's pretty cool. I really like that, and I really like that. I don't know if that's how it is, but to me, that's how it felt. So, but that's it. That's it for Hellfest. That's really all I can say. Even though the spoilers that I gave out aren't really true, they are spoilers, but like you have to experience it for the most part because I hope you feel the same way as I do because like it was just like so out of place that these two kills happened back to back, like within like 2 seconds of one another, and it was just like, oh, like I wanted more to happen to these characters. Like I know that's kind of like demented to say, but it's like, oh, I want to kind of see some more innovative death scenes, you know, and we only got like two, really. But that's really all I have to say on Hellfest. I'm going to get into my rating scale. Run-of-the-mill horror, 2 best watched with group, 3 helps move the horror genre forward, 3 is more than average horror, but doesn't move the horror genre forward. 4 helps move the horror genre forward, and 5 being a horror classic. Sorry there. I think this movie is definitely that's tough. This one may be just as tough as yesterday's video because it's more than I think it's not your run of the mill because of how good it looks. It's that really to me that makes a big difference because if it's your run of the mill, those tend to look a lot the same. You know, like those just tend to look like very like shot on like terrible video cameras. They follow a really close formula. They have the same characters and everything. I'm thinking about the characters in this movie are very distinct to them for the most part, so they're kind of more than average on that end. 2 best watchers of the group. You can watch this by yourself. That's how I watched it. It's not. I don't think there's really anything in this particular movie that really stands out that requires like, hey, you want to come over and watch this movie with me? It sounds pretty cool. I'm like, of course, there's going to be you have that one friend who's really good, who's a good friend that he's like, hey, let's watch this movie together. But I ended up watching it by myself, and it was perfectly fine. It didn't really need to like go up and beyond that. So, and then it's more than average in a lot of ways because of the production value, some of the kills, the killer, like the story of itself. I know a killer in an amusement park is definitely nothing new, but it's just kind of like it. I like the feel of this movie. So it definitely feels more than average for the most part. And Ford, I don't think it really moves the horror genre forward at all, in my opinion, on that one. And then being a horror classic, I think it may be more of like a good movie to kind of build up to a horror classic. You know, like, oh, let's just watch a bunch of movies that are set in a carnival or something like that, and like and this one would be a pretty decent one to throw in the mix, but like ultimately there will be a better one to round it all out. So it's definitely not a horror classic. So I'm going to say a 3. It's definitely more than average due to like good acting, good gore, good production value, all that stuff. I think it's definitely more than average, and so like I think that's a really good assumption on this. It's like it's definitely more than average, but doesn't move the horror genre forward because it's nothing new set in a carnival or amusement area. The kills are probably been done before in other movies, but just seeing this in today's era of horror movies is fun, and just like, oh, it was just fun. It really was. And then that like I mentioned, the 25 minute mark of the movie, it was like before the end, it was just like, okay, that's it. It kind of got me. Like I didn't really care for that. So, but that little last 2 minutes of the movie saves it, in my opinion, just because like, oh, you really don't learn nothing, but you don't really learn nothing about his motives, but you learn a lot about the character in those 2 minutes without a word of dialogue, for one word. That's all, one word. And so that is all. I know this video is going to be quite long. I am the one and only MSJ, Max for short, and all I can really say is thank you.